All right, guys, welcome to painting number 2 in our 10-week course. Super excited. This is a hydrangea painting made with Q-tips. So that is a new material that we're going to get to use. This is an original that I created, and it's pretty exciting to be able to share. We're also going to use some other materials. We are going to use 2 different types of brushes. We're going to use this big flat brush to get the color in on the background. We'll end up using a round brush that comes to a point and a tip. And then we are going to have these Q-tips. So what you do is you take cotton swabs, Q-tips, and you bundle them up. I like to use, the best things I've found, instead of like big rubber bands, are the little girl braid rubber bands. And I can get a pack of like 500 of those for $1 at the Dollar Tree. And so we'll do different bundles. So we'll do ones maybe that have bigger bundles that maybe have like 7 or 8 in them. Also, you know, you can have some that are a little medium, kind of like 5, 4 or 5. And then we might even use a couple, just maybe 3 or 1 if we're just getting in different details. So we'll kind of, when we're doing this part, we'll start for like larger size of bundles, and then we might go down smaller to give us a little more control of detail with that. And we'll also be using some plastic wrap. So you can use like cling wrap or something. This is actually the plastic that came off around my canvas I'm about to use. I'm just using it as a way to recycle. So I'm just gonna bunch this up, and that's how we actually get this little texture all around it, is with our plastic wrap. So those are our materials that we'll need, and I will switch over. Now, when I originally did this painting, if you see, I did my canvas in a landscape. Landscape is when it's longer one way, shorter the other. This is portrait, when it's longer this way and shorter, widthwise. I actually found in redoing this one, it actually is easier doing it in a portrait orientation to give more room for the leaves and those stems. We found that other people had a little trouble and got crowded when they were trying to do it this way. So even though this one is oriented in landscape, we're actually going to paint it in portrait. And my example canvas is a little smaller, which helps us go faster. And there we go. So there is our example right there. And the first thing we're going to do is our background. We're going to put out some yellow onto our plate. We need yellow, and we're going to have some white, because this yellow is a very strong yellow, but we'd like to have it a little softer. So I normally don't try to put out my paint too early. Some of the colors, if we're not getting to that yet, they could start to dry, but sometimes it's nice to have all the colors out. But for right now, I'm just gonna have, and I'll probably have to put out more white. Covering the base of our canvas is always, that first layer always takes a little more paint because it's a dry canvas. All right, we're gonna grab our big brush that we have, and we'll take our water, we take the brush, and we're gonna go ahead and dip it in the water to just go ahead and prime it. Brushes do not like to paint dry. They like to be a little damp and moist before they get paint on them. So we'll go ahead and get our big paintbrush, have our, although right now it doesn't matter which orientation our canvas is, but once we were putting in the flowers, we'll keep it in portrait. But right now, we're just going to be getting some color in. So we're going to start, I'm going to grab some yellow and maybe a little bit of white. So I've got yellow and white on my brush. And I'm going to start kind of going around the outside. I'm going to put this brighter yellow all the way around the outside of my canvas. See, I'm already having to grab for some more paint. because this first layer does need more, needs more paint to kind of cover that. So we're going to go around, and as we get towards the middle, I'm going to grab more white to get it lighter and lighter. So we kind of get this effect where the outside is a darker yellow, and I know yellow is sometimes hard to see with the camera on a laptop, right? Not the best quality, but you know, it's what we got. We work with what we got. So we're just putting yellow and white all along our canvas. We're just going to cover the whole thing in this light yellow. If you want your corners to be a little darker, they can, but the main thing is that we're just going to get this yellow in. If you see I got a little darker right there, I can just go back right over it with some white and lighten it straight up. And so we're just going to get this background in. And when we put the background in, it's always the great opportunity to go ahead and paint the edges of our canvas. Painting the edges of our canvas really helps us to make us feel that we've finished this off. It's ready to hang when we are done if we want, if we like the result. If not, then we chalk it up as a learning experience and it's fine. Never have to feel the pressure that it has to be perfect every time that we put paint to canvas. Sometimes it's just a process, and we learn something along the way that we will do better in next time. So yeah, so I'm going to take that same yellow, and I'm just going to go ahead and use my brush and go all along the edge. I will turn my canvas so that it's just the edge that's facing towards me. That makes it a lot easier for me in this position. Sometimes when you have it, when it's laying down, you can get to all the edges a little better. You can kind of scoot it off the edge of your table that you're using, kind of let the edge hang, and that's kind of nice. And look at this, I have already, see, I've got all this yellow left, and I've already used all the white that I've already pulled out. So I wanted to show you that sometimes it will just happen. Sometimes we don't need as much of the color. We'll use more of one than the other. You never know how it's going to go. So like I said, the main goal is that we just have the whole thing covered in this pretty yellow. Not too bright. Like I said, if it gets a little bright around the center, just add a little more white. Kind of makes that little glow. Now I'm rinsing out my brush really well because I'm not going to, oh, I forgot to grab a rag. There it is. Always nice to have a rag. My rags are actually old towels that I buy at thrift stores, and I cut them up. Very handy to have rags instead of wasting paper towels, because we can keep reusing them, and I just have them designated for paint. But I can get a lot of rags out of an old beach towel. I will say any towel that starts to shed in my house automatically becomes a paint rag. But they're getting a second life. And they become very colorful too in the process. So I really like, actually I like being able to see all of you guys at the same time. I can just look at one screen and see what everyone's doing. I'm seeing some really good yellow canvases. This looks great. I also see some very relaxed looking artists. I get to lay on the floor and enjoy their space. So I kind of like that. That's really nice. All right, so we have our backgrounds all painted, and it's okay if it's still a little wet. Our next process in this, we'll go straight onto the wet canvas, and that'll be fine. Mine has started to dry, but that's just because it's a smaller canvas. There's probably a little less paint. This is the part where we're going to pull out some plastic wrap. Like I said, my plastic is actually the plastic that was wrapped around this canvas. So I'm using it as a way to recycle it. I'm gonna tear mine into 2 pieces. Having a couple pieces would be helpful. I might end up with maybe like needing 3 pieces, but basically you'll just need a little bit of plastic or plastic wrap and cling wrap that will just end up bunching into like a little hand, you know, just to give us a little texture. But first thing, we also need to make sure, I see you guys already have your paint out. I'm gonna get out the paint that I need. We're gonna be using some red right now. So I'm gonna get some red out. I'm at the ends of some of these bottles of paint, but not willing to throw them away yet. So you'll see me struggle to try to get the last of this paint, because I don't like to waste anything. I think art needs to be a way to use things that could be wasted and make beautiful things. So I've got my red right there, and I am going to take my plastic. So I've kind of bunched it up so there's lots of little divot. It's not flat, so it's not flat. There's lots of little texture on this part, the way I've crunched it up. And I'm going to take the plastic right now, and I'm going to just smash it and kind of smear it into the plate a little bit. Get some paint right on there. So you'll see it's not completely solid. Sometimes this is when I can see I can kind of squish it up a little more. And then we're going to kind of do a patting, kind of stamping motion where it's going to be touching and just kind of bouncing all the way around, and we're going to be just going around the whole perimeter of the canvas. So yeah, like I said, I like to kind of swirl my paint, make sure it's not too much, not big globs. And these first few I do kind of light because there's the most paint on here. So I'll just kind of start touching it, and then I can see how much paint is coming off. And let me keep you guys closer so you can see. I'm going to just kind of start smashing, smash, all the way around the outside edge. Now, after a while, the paint, you know, there's not a lot on there. I'll have to go back and grab some more, and then I'll kind of start smashing again. So we're kind of creating like a whole frame that our flowers will be in the center of. So we're going to go all the way around the outside. Of the canvas. And sometimes I do a little bit, I like to do a little bit more in my corners. I kind of like having the color kind of anchored there. But we're going all the way around. You see a part where it gets a little less. But there's going to be some spots that are bigger than others, some that are smaller. That's kind of the look we're going for by using this plastic. So that's kind of a neat little texture all the way around. All the way around. So that's kind of our first layer. If you see right there, there's a spot that ended up having a little bigger blob of red. That's fine. It's not about looking even. It's just about having that texture all the way around. Feel like a little more, some spots, you know, kind of bring it in a little bit. Good. I think I'm just going to go with that. Sometimes you can overanalyze stuff. You can start to overdo, and sometimes it's just paint went there and it looks good, and I'm going to just let it be. So that's really kind of fun. That's pretty easy to do, to get that in there. Next, we're actually going to do a layer of black. We're going to do a layer of black paint with our plastic. Honestly, black is such a strong color. I'm not worried to reuse the same plastic, because even if it gets some red in it, it's okay. We've already got red on our canvas. We can reuse this plastic with the black color now. So yeah, I've got red on there, but black is such a very strong pigmented color, it's going to be fine. So I've got black on my plastic now. And again, since black is such a strong color, we do not need to go as aggressive. We're going to be going back over the same area, but we don't want to do it so thick that we can't see the red that we already put in. So I'm going to, again, just start doing that. And as I texture in, you can see where I have red and now I have black. Now this is where I do really like to get a lot heavier on the black on the corners. It kind of anchors it. Also, as you're tapping, you can kind of twist your plastic each time you kind of set it down, so it's a different angle and orientation. So that can give different looks. Yeah, I really like doing a little bit more on the corner. I'm starting to get paint on me. I know it's not an art class unless I've got paint on me somewhere. Hopefully more on my hands than my clothes. I own aprons. I just always forget to grab one. I just have to be super careful. I own enough aprons for 20 people, actually. I'm never using them this much. I forget. I think I'm more worried about other people's clothes than mine. I'm the one that has to do my own laundry. I'll be okay. All right. I might actually put out a little more black, but I'm starting to like that. It's always easier to put out a little more paint than to have way too much. So yeah, this is where, see where I'm, yeah, I've got a little bit darker spots right there, but I really want to have the corners be a little darker. Oh, that one got really dark. Oh, well, it's fine. See, I want to show you guys, even as I make these, I've done this painting a number of times. I can never exactly recreate it. I never can. It always becomes another version of it. It's still using the same techniques, right? So I might get it a little closer, but it is never going to be exactly the same, which is why they all end up becoming original. So original means that it's not a print, it's not a copy. It is its only way that it, you know, it's its own version of something. All right, so I'm going to set that one aside, and I'm going to get rid of that plastic because we're not going to use that one again, because black is going to be way too strong on any of our other colors. Next, I'm actually going to grab some more white. My white I used basically all of when we were doing the background. And so I'm getting some more white out. As you can see, my paint blobs end up being really smashed out when I'm doing the plastic. Sometimes I may even have to switch and get a second plate just because of space-wise. These plates need more space. Okay, so this I've also put out some blue, and this one doesn't want to close. That's fine. So I've got some white and I've got some blue. That's my leftover yellow from our background. So I'll just have to bounce back and forth. We're gonna make a light blue that we're going to just sponge right around the inside edge. So this time our paint is not gonna go on the black and the red outside. What we're gonna do is we're going to kind of just hug the line between our background color, the yellow, and where these other colors are, and it's gonna soften that edge. So I'm gonna take another plastic, smash it up, get it all ready. There we go. Smash, smash, you can see, yep, there's my paint already on my fingers. It's fine, we'll wash off afterwards. So I'm gonna come here and I'm going to grab, I think I'm gonna go for my white first and then go over to my blue, grab a little bit of blue and then let them kind of swirl. I'm gonna swirl them on the plate together. So I'm going for kind of this lighter blue right here. Here we go. So you don't need a lot of blue. Blue's a very strong pigment. So we just need a little bit of blue and normally more white. So I've got this blue and the white and made this very light blue color. And now I'm going to gently, I was gonna say sponge, it's not really a sponge, it's going to plastic wrap it, smash it into this inside barrier, or the inside transition between those harsh ones, and it'll kind of lay over here. I'm starting it down here, so you can see I'm gonna kind of smash that right on that inside part, right here. It kind of helps soften that because the red and the black is very harsh. It is a very harsh combination, but this is how we're going to soften. And there's a couple of spots of mine that turn white. That's fine. I don't mind that there's white showing through. Actually, that kind of adds some nice pretty highlights. So I'm taking that plastic and I'm just going around this inside part right here. So really what we've been doing, we've been building in the area where our flowers are going to be are not super big because we've covered some of our canvas now with this textured kind of framing with the plastic wrap. Kind of do a couple little dots, a little more up into the black and the red, but just right around the inside edge. Like I said, some spots they kind of get a little darker than others. Some are lighter. Part of that is just how much paint is on the plastic at the time, right? When you first smash it down, there's going to be a lot more paint than after you smashed it a few more times. I am going to say that I am done with that. So again, it's still a version of our original painting. There was a little more space by doing it in the landscape orientation to try to do extra layers of the plastic. But this is our version now of this hydrangea painting. Once you're done with the plastic, if you need to wash your hands, this is a good time. Or kind of dry them off. And we can dispose of the plastic if you want to make sure that they're out of your space so that they are not getting messy. We don't need any more plastic anymore. That always ends up flipping over on something and getting something messy. So, oh, excuse me. All right, so we've got the whole background put in, and what's great is this whole time, we've got the edge, our background should be completely dry. We haven't touched the middle this whole time, so we are ready to move on to actually putting in our flowers. So this is when we're going to grab our bundles of Q-tips. So we call it Q-tips, that's the brand. It's a cotton swab, right? Mine is actually not the actual Q-tip brand. It's fine, you can do that. One of the things that we do, so when they're bundled, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll make sure on a flat surface to kind of push it down and make sure that they're all lined up. So we want to make sure that if I'm to press them on a flat surface, all of them are going to make contact, right? They don't need to be staggered because then only a couple will be touching. So a lot of times pressing it down onto a table and kind of making sure kind of hold them together and kind of smash them down will help get them level for our painting use. So a nice, table, kind of twist them, make sure they're all together. So I'm going to grab this one has, let's see, this one has 7 in it. I'm going to grab a larger one like this. We don't need much larger because, again, I'm doing a little bit smaller canvas anyway. What we're going to do is we're going to go straight for our solid blue color. So with our flowers, we're going to start with dark, and then we'll do a medium color and then the light color on top. So we'll kind of build our layers from there. So when I take my Q-tip little patch, I'm going to just tap it in there, and then a lot of times, that's why my plate looks so messy. A lot of times I'll tap it in there, and then sometimes I'll kind of like swirl it to make sure they all got some color on there. So you see all of my Q-tips, they all have blue on there. All right, so what we're going to do now is, if you can see on and this is where our orientation of our canvas will matter, because we're going to do this portrait. So we're going to, in our mind, kind of look, we're going to have these kind of bunches, these circles. So hydrangea flowers are really pretty because, there's these, each blossom is a really big round blossom. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of tap our cotton swab and kind of make circles. So we're going to do circles. In my larger example over here, it ended up being about 5 circles. If we only do 3 circles, you feel like you can do 5, we'll just kind of feel it out. But I'm going to first just kind of tap around in a circle, kind of give myself, there's going to be one of my flowers. Okay, now let's see, I'm going to go back for some more Q-tips. The cotton swabs, again, are not ones that hold on to paint great. So I'll go back for some more paint. So maybe this time, now I'm going to do another little circle right here. So they're touching, they're connected, right? We're just giving ourselves kind of the shape of where our flowers are going to go. I'm going to do another circle right here. And what's kind of neat, so the way that you do this, we're not streaking the cotton swabs. I always explain it is they like to bounce like they're bouncing on a trampoline. So they're bouncing the whole time. They're just bounce, 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 bounce. So you're always lifting and touching and bouncing it off of the canvas. So they're our little trampoline bouncers. All right, and then I'm gonna bounce another little circle right here. I think I am gonna end up, 5 is normally a really good, even in flower arrangements, they always do odd numbers and it's just visually appealing. So I think we'll do 5. That's what I think that's where we're going again. So I'm going to do that. It almost looks like I did a flower already because that looks like almost like 5 petals, but it's going to be five bunches, and then we'll kind of fill in a little bit in the center. All right, so this is just solid blue, and I'm going to go back over these ones and kind of fill them in a little bit, but I don't want them to be solid. You still want to see, those. The reason we're using the cotton swabs is to give us those circle details, right? So that it looks like those little petals with the little individual flowers that make up a hydrangea flower. So each blossom is made up of a bunch of little tiny blossoms. So that is, I've already used up the blue on my plate, so I'm going to try to get some more out. There we go. So we should have 5 little circles. All right, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go back in and we're going to start adding in a little bit lighter layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, we can use that same one, although I will say, I want you to watch. After a while, they start to get a little hairy and they'll start to kind of get fuzzy on you. And if they start doing that and they start putting paint where you don't want it, you may want to switch to a fresh one, or you can flip it over and use the other side. So if you start to feel like the cotton is trying to pull away too much, switch to another one or use the other side. I think mine might be able to stick together for a little bit longer, and then I might move on to a new one. Because if it starts to get fuzzy, then we don't make circles anymore. It starts making blobs. Okay, so I'm going to grab some more blue, but this time now I'm going to come over to the white as well. So I'm coming over to the white. I'm going to swirl it, and I'm going to get kind of more this medium blue color. You see that? It's not as light as we did with the plastic wrap. I'm doing kind of more of this medium blue. I'm going to kind of tap that in there, right? Got that on my cotton swabs. And this time I'm going to come, in painting, one of the things that we're always telling the story of is we're telling the story of light. Where is light coming from? And we tell that story by how things hit and highlights. And so we're going to say that the sun or the light is going to be hitting our flowers from this direction. So if I'm looking at my canvas, it's going to come from that left side, right? Coming from our left corner, which means any of our highlights and stuff are going to lean more towards the left side of the flowers. So when I'm going to go in with this lighter color, I'm looking just at this blossom, I'm going to start tapping in this lighter color, but I'm going to leave, if you can see, I'm going to leave a little bit of the darker color exposed more near the bottom. If you can see that, I'm not going to cover all that up. It's not just going to cover all the way. I'm going to put in this lighter color with purpose to be more on the top left part of the flower. If you can see that. If you see, I have more right here on this, on the top left edge, and I'm leaving some of that darker color as our shadow. Sometimes you can go back and add in shadows. Sometimes it's nicer if we start darker and we just start going to our highlights, then we just make sure we leave some shadows. So this one, this flower, its highlights are gonna be kind of up near the top here, right? Again, leaving some of that darker part, kind of where they're touching. I'm gonna have to grab some more blue and mix a little bit more of that medium blue because I'm running low on it. And I might be getting near the end. See how hairy my Q-tips are? See, they've got trying to do a hairstyle. It's not really what I want. I'm gonna see how they're doing. If they're still making circles, I can work with them. If they're starting to get too solid, then I might want to switch. So let me see. No, I'm gonna switch. That's starting to look too solid for me. So I'm just going to flip my little bunch over and use new surfaces of cotton swabs to get that in, because I don't want to lose those little that dot effect. Yeah, so some more highlights on this one, and then this one down at the bottom, its little highlights are right here. There we go. All right, so now they don't look as solid as they were, right? I can still see some of the dark shadowing that we've created, which that's really very nice. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to go back, and this time now we're just going to add a much lighter layer. So now I'm not going to even grab any more blue. I'm going to grab more of this white, and it might make it a very light, it's going to make it a very, very light blue, very light blue. So it looks very light, like the ones that we put around the edge. So now I'm going to come back, and now I'm going to just touch up in here. Look at that. So that's even, it's almost like I can see different layers. So there's the dark layer right here. There's that medium color, and now we're adding this lighter color just to more the corner of the flower. Bouncing with the Q-tips, so I still have the little circles, which is so cool, because if we were trying to do all these little dots with a paintbrush, it would take us forever. So this is a fun artist little trick. And that Q-tip had more white on it, but that's okay. I wanted to go ahead and skip to the highlight spot, I guess. You didn't want to wait. So I'm going back over each of the flowers and doing even just a little less. And we can actually add a little bit, I probably should have added some of the medium blue too. Some of the medium blue kind of to the center of this, to the bunches. I forgot that we can kind of fill that in just a little bit, and we can add, it's almost like another blossom, but it's almost like they just where they touch. We can add some highlight and stuff to that. So I've had questions, they're like, are it 5 blossoms or 6? I was like, it's kind of, when they're gathered together, they kind of take up space as they kind of touch each other, right? They fill the space. So we're getting really close. So you should be seeing where, if you look at one of your blossoms, they've got a very lighter spot, kind of some medium color, and then that darker color right there. And however many blossoms you chose to do, that's all that you need to worry about. If you're like, I just want to do 3, no problem. No problem in your space. Sometimes you have to be willing to just go with what your canvas and materials are wanting you to do that day. All right, I'm going to put down this larger bunch, and I'm actually going to grab a smaller one. I may do this one that's just a little three bunch. That's going to give me some control of just putting in, we're just going to put in some white this time. Just some plain white and some little highlight spots. So again, our colors, our light is, we're saying it's kind of coming and hitting our flowers from this direction. So I'm going to, with the white, just go in and kind of bounce in. You see just a few dots of just white, and that really makes it pop. These are the details that everyone notices, and they don't realize that we've done all the work already to add the depth up underneath it. They just go, oh, that's so pretty. You're like, well, that's after 3 layers or 4 layers. But they don't know. They don't have to know. It's okay. That could be your artist secret. So bouncing, just doing some little highlights. Isn't that amazing that just adding a few, look, like this one right here. I'm just going to add a few little white dots, on some of them, some part of it, and it just makes it pop. My kids would kill me if they heard if I'm saying, yeah, they're popping. They're like, oh, and they groan. Mom, you can't talk about that. I'm like, okay, fine. They are. This is where you can also look and see if there's any place that you want to fill in. If you don't like that you can see, I don't mind being able to see through even a little bit of where my background was, but if there's some spots that you don't like and you're like, man, I don't like seeing that as much, you can get a single cotton swab and then you can go in maybe with your darker color to fix. You can always go back in with any of the colors that we've mixed and try to fix a little bit if you want. You're like, oh, I want to cover up some of that. That's fine. Add a little darker spots. If you feel like you went a little crazy on some of your lighter ones and you're like, I don't know what to do. I messed it all up. I covered all of my dark background up. Well, then you can go back and just add a little more. All right. So if you are done, that is how we do our flowers. So we are done with our flowers. All we have to do now is we're going to put in some stems and some flowers, or not flowers, leaves. Leaves for the flowers. So this is where we're going to actually use a paintbrush. We're going to grab a kind of a pointed medium paintbrush. So it's anything that can give you, a point to it. I'm doing a medium one, but a little bit skinnier one. You just may have to do a couple strokes in order to get that. Remember, any paintbrush does not like to be in paint until it's already been damp. So we always dip that in our water, drag off the extra. It's nice and damp, but you can't shake water out of it. The stems are, I made them brown, although looking back at my hydrangea bush, I think they're kind of more of a brown green, but it's fine. If you look at the colors that we don't have a brown officially. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna actually mix our brown. So this is where we're gonna do some mixing of colors. This is also what we do if we were doing skin tones to make brown. Brown is made of, and you can use red, yellow, and blue in order to mix our brown. So our three primary colors, when you mix those together, will make brown. Like we've said before, blue is a very strong color. So whenever you're mixing this, you don't want to do too much blue, or we will start to lean more into the green zombie colors if we were ever doing skin tones. But green in this case, because it's a nature color, is not too bad. So let's see here. My plate looks like a big old hot mess, but I do still have some red. I do still have some yellow actually from our background, and there's the blue. So I'm going to find like a little spot right here that doesn't have any, and I'm going to scoop some of each color towards the center. There's some yellow. I'm going to scoop some red over towards it. And I'm going to come over to my blue and do this. As kindergartners, man, we were all about, let me get all these colors and mix it all together on my plate and see what color I can come up with. And every single kid figured out brown can be made very quickly. Very, very quickly. So mine, I know it looks very, very dark. The camera does not do that. Mine actually has a little bit of a green tint to it. The way that you get it more towards a brown is you actually add a little more red. The red balances out the blue and gets it more towards a brown state. Like I said, we're not actually working on a skin tone, so it doesn't have to look like it would match a person. It's fine. We're looking more for a nature brown color. So I feel okay with this brown. Do you see, as I mix, I would grab maybe a little more red. If I want to do a little more yellow to lighten it up, I could do some yellow to make it a little bit lighter. But that seems about right. So I've got the brown mixed. Again, it's just our primary colors. And we're going to do stems. And we're going to imagine, you know, each one of these blossoms has a stem that's going to come down. But we're not going to be able to see it. We have to like imagine, where would this stem, if it's coming down, where would it come out? Now I know where this one is going to be very easy from the bottom, that I can just, from this flower, just do a straight little stem down, right? That one's pretty easy. All right, so I'll start with that one. This guy right here, he's, you know, I can kind of see where he would go. Maybe I can see a little of the stem there. Maybe it hides behind that spot. It's just from where mine is. Maybe it hides behind there and it continues, right? And it's okay, these do not have to be perfectly straight. Actually, hydrangea blossoms, I've got one, and sometimes they're really kind of crooked and wavy, so we can just kind of go with it. This blossom is going to have a stem that's going this way. Or we're kind of, you know, they're pretending like they're going to a central point, like a vase. All right, now I've got the flowers I can't see, but I'm going to say they still have a stem. All right, so maybe this one, I'll pretend imaginary track, and then I start to see that one, and it's right this way. Maybe that's where that one is. And then maybe this one, imaginary, I don't see it until it pops out right there. But I know that there's enough stems for the flowers that I have. I'm gonna rinse my brush out. Rinse. So yeah, I made the 5 blossoms, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stems, just like that. What?
I messed up.
You messed up?
Yeah, so it looks more like a tree, so I'm going to turn it into a tree instead of a flower.
Okay, that's fine. Sometimes, like I said, you just start painting and then sometimes you have to go with the way the paint is working with you that day. And you still learned some new things, some new processes. And so that's fine. So I'm more proud of you to see how things are going and how you'd rather adjust it than giving up on a painting or saying, I just messed up and I hate it. I would much rather that you be willing to see it in a new light and make it work. That's great. That shows creativity. And then, like we said, every time we do a new painting, we'll be adding new skills, and you'll find that there'll be some things that you start getting more comfortable with. So after we do our stems, the next thing we're going to do is just going to add a few leaves, little green leaves. Again, we don't actually have green in our color base because we only have our primary colors in black and white. So green is going to be another color that we're going to mix. Green, if you remember, is mixed, if you remember from kindergarten, it's mixed from blue and yellow. So that's all we're going to need to do. We're going to do some blue and yellow, maybe a little bit of white to tone it down, not be so dark. Again, this blue, whenever we mix it with something, seems to get very, very dark very easily because it's such a saturated pigment. So I'm gonna, let's see here. Again, I'm running out of space on my plate. If yours is starting to look like this, it's okay. So I'm gonna grab some blue, a little bit of blue, come over here to beside my yellow, and I'm gonna grab more yellow because it's a very translucent color. It takes more of it. And I'm going to start over here and mixing a green. So blue and yellow, mixing. Purposely going for green this time. See how I keep grabbing more yellow as I'm trying to lighten it up? So that, yep, see, more yellow. There we go. See, I'm starting to like that color. See how that's starting to get a little more, looking for that springy leaf green. To lighten that up, I add more yellow. If I want to, I might grab a little bit of white, but it can start to wash it out a little bit too. But that's not too bad. Look at that green. So again, that was a little bit of that blue, grabbing some yellow and kind of mixing that together. I did grab just a little touch of white. But now I'm gonna come over here and we're gonna start making leaves. The leaves are not too bad. We're gonna just kind of randomly put them along our stems. So the leaf shape, I'm gonna show you, we're gonna do kind of a swoop up to a point and then a swoop down to the same point. And that's how we're gonna do this leaf shape. So here we go. I'm going to just start one right here. I'm going to touch it to the stem and I'm gonna swoop up and over. See how it kind of does this little arc, right? And then I do the same thing, but the opposite, and I go down to the same point. You see like that? And then I fill it in. So that's one leaf right there. And so like I said, you don't have to do a ton, and you'll have to see where your stems are of where you want to do it. So again, I'm gonna come here to the stem, I'm gonna touch it, I'm gonna swoop up and down, and then I'm gonna come back to the base, I'm gonna swoop down and then up, and then I fill it in. All right, so then, yeah, maybe I stick a teeny tiny one in the center here, right? Maybe there's a little one there. And so this is where, again, you need to see where it fits on your stems. Maybe I'll do one this way. Maybe another one this way. I will say if the leaves do get bigger, the farther down the stems that they go. I've noticed on the plants themselves, so maybe this bottom one has like a really big leaf right down there, like that. And then maybe the ones that are really close to the, kind of closer to the flower, there's a little teeny tiny flower leaf. The noble, these leaves will still help you if you are doing more of a tree or wanting to have some leaf detail for yours as well. We are almost done. The last thing is that these leaves are just one solid color, and everything we've been pretty much trying to do has at least some highlight to it. So all I want to do is I'm going to mix just a lighter shade of that same green that I just did, which just means I need to add a little bit of white to just a small portion of it. And I'm going to get this lighter shade of green. And then all I have to do is I'm going to go back over just the top, like I'm just doing the top swoop this time of green. And I make just a light line right there. Just a highlight. Again, saying that the light is making things, you know, light makes things appear lighter on the surfaces that it touches. So just a little lighter part on the top of each of the leaves. So I want you to look, if you are out in nature and you see, we look at trees all the time, but a leaf does not look like a flat colored green the whole time. We say the leaf is green, but it's many shades of green. Even as a leaf moves, our eyes will see multiple shades of green, but we just say green, right? But then we are done. So I'm going to pause the recording for any questions. Actually, no, I'm going to go ahead and end the recording as I'm still getting used to this. Thank you so much for tuning in for this tutorial. And I really, really hope that you enjoyed being able to make these beautiful hydrangea flowers using cotton swabs and this pretty border with the plastic wrap. And I can't wait for you to do our next lesson. Bye.